in collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, the Cyprus government prepares measures in response to Turkish provocations in her EEZ.
We have a number of diplomatic, political and legal ideas on how to react to the Turkish action, and from tomorrow we will start announcing certain measures, and we will evaluate the situation every day.
We'll hear about the national final of the Clean Launchpad Business Idea Competition.
His idea was to take the fumes, the exhaust fumes from aircraft just before they take off, clean them, and also generate power that could generate part of the needs of a medium to big airport facility. Take
a harp, a saxophone and a double bass, and you have some unusual jazz.
Contemporary jazz is so open and there's so many possibilities in every direction. So for me it doesn't feel uncommon. So it's my instrument, and then I developed the genre, and so it was natural for me to do it with the harp.
And we'll discuss hybrid and electric transport with the Minister of Communications.
I think that number one, we have to improve the public transport in general. And number two, we have to move into converting the ideas we have at the moment to something more specific.
Earlier this week, the Foreign Press Corps was hosted at a lunch at the Presidential Palace. The main topic discussed was, perhaps unsurprisingly, Turkey's incursion into Cyprus' exclusive economic zone for the declared purpose of seismic research. After lunch, I spoke to the government spokesman, Nikos Christodoulidis. You've had a long meeting in the National Council this morning. What's been the result?
The Council of Ministers exchanged ideas on the current situation, and they all agree. It was one of the best ever meetings that I attended of the National Council. Collectively, they agree that we have to face Turkish aggression acts. The members of the National Council, they put forward ideas on how to react to the Turkish move. And also President Stassiadis put forward some ideas. Tomorrow they will continue exchanging ideas on those proposals put forward, and maybe some members of the National Council will put forward some other ideas. And by tomorrow we will announce certain measures as a reaction to the Turkish violation of our sovereignty.
And what's the aim of these measures? What are you trying to achieve?
We're trying to... We left from the negotiation. We suspend our participation in the negotiation. It wasn't an easy decision. We want, and we decided since 1977 that we want to solve the Cyprus problem through negotiation. There is no other way to solve it. But we cannot negotiate under threat and blackmailing. So through this counter-actions, actually, to the Turkish move, we will try to send a message to Turkey, and in practice to see that Turkey postpone what it started today in our exclusive economic zone.
So far they haven't actually done any seismic research, I think.
Until this time, with 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, no. But we don't know, and we have to wait to see how they will behave.
You've had messages of support from our European partners, but there isn't really a great deal more that they can do, is there? I know that one of the diplomatic things you've been talking about is possibly returning to, and I think the Foreign Minister is going to Brussels, to brief people. What would you hope if Turkey does go ahead with seismic research, rather than just putting a boat in the area as a gesture?
We have a number of diplomatic, political and legal ideas on how to react to the Turkish action, and from tomorrow we will start announcing certain measures, and we will evaluate the situation every day, and accordingly we will take decisions. We have a clear plan on how to move forward, and we will see how the situation will develop.
And can I just ask you, the talks are on hold. It doesn't look as if, even if this was solved tomorrow, we could see the President going back to talk to Mr. Erdoğan any time soon. it's not just a question of getting back to the negotiating table, it's can they now pick up where they left off?
That's the best question that I have been asked the last days. The issue is not to have negotiation, but to have negotiation and to have there a prospect of a positive outcome. And the negotiation, they were really difficult. Of course, we knew that it would be difficult, but with the current situation, it's even more difficult. Because, as I told you, we cannot negotiate under threat and blackmailing.
But if the threat goes away, can they just walk back into the room again, shake hands and carry on?
We have
or has it set us back somehow because there's now a lack of trust?
We have a new special representative, Mr. Vaide. We think that from what we see until now, he's a person that he can really help the process. And we feel really pity that Turkey didn't give him the chance to show that how he can help to the negotiation process. So in case everything is back to normal and we return to the negotiation, I think Mr. Vaide can help.
And Andreas Mavroyiannis had established, I think, a very good rapport with Kudret Rosie. He now, of course, is no longer their chief negotiator. What impact does that have on moving the process forward?
You know, it is a decision of the leader of the Turkish Cypriot community to change the negotiator. I fully respect his decision. I would not like to comment on this specific appointment. We just respect.
No, what I'm getting at is more the fact that because Andreas and Kudret had such a good, seemingly working
Mr.
relationship...
Mr. Mavroyiannis is an excellent guy that he can establish relations with everybody if the other side is willing to do so.
Government spokesman Nikos Christodoulidis.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Now, another big story in Cyprus this week has been the arrest of Paphos Mayor Savas Vergas in connection with a land scam involving one of the biggest developers on the island, Aristo Developers. Threatening text messages were sent from a phone paid for by the mayor, and although he's now been released from custody, investigations are ongoing into other irregularities, like the waiving of a municipal tax on a music event in exchange for a contribution to the Paphos Food Bank, which was allegedly never made.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
At an event last week, 3 teams were selected at the Cyprus-Greece national final of the Clean Launchpad Business Idea competition. One of the co-organisers in Cyprus is Chrysalis Leap, and from there, Stelios Yatros joins us. Stelios, explain what this Clean Launchpad is, because we've spoken on the programme before about Chrysalis Leap and about start-ups, but this had a very specific, I think, theme.
Yes, the Chrysalis Leap Clean Launchpad 2014 is the national competition for both Cyprus and Greece, and it's part of a wider European program organized by the Climate Kick, which is a massive accelerator, probably the largest accelerator in the world for ideas that concern either the environment or sustainable development. So this year, with the help of Climate Kick, we've organized this competition, which included an initial bootcamp about a month ago, where we trained 10 startups focusing on Cleantech. And last Friday we had the final, and the top 3 teams will be competing in Valencia in a couple of weeks' time for 100,000 in equity-free seed funding.
And they also get, I think, a considerable training from Cleantech.
Yes, that's true. Other than some in-kind contributions that we'll get from our sponsors, EY Cyprus, that have been supporting us both last year and for the Clean Launchpad this year, all the teams will get training from us and try to compete at this European level. You should imagine that, consider like a big Eurovision. Instead of a song contest, it's for Cleantech startups competing, not to get funding, but even much more training, networking. The Climate Kick officials and partners, they have links to all the major companies and professional bodies in Europe. So if let's say you want your idea to become at a global scale, this is the training ground for you to be.
So do tell us who won. What ideas did they come up with?
Not in ascending or descending order. We just selected the three teams. We did not really tell them which one was first and which one was third. But we had one from Cyprus and two from Greece. The one from Cyprus is Chrysalis Lip alumnus from last year. He did not make it last year, but he made a lot of improvements and came up this year. And he managed to win one of the three seats that was selected from the jury.
What's his idea?
His idea was to take the exhaust fumes from aircraft just before they take off, clean them, and also generate power that could generate part of the needs of a medium to big airport facility. The second idea was about getting the waste from wineries, using that biomass to create combined heat and power and electricity. And the third idea was a retrofit system for existing houses that have photovoltaic systems, and it would help them to increase the efficiency of their electricity production and at the same time create free hot water for the users. So all these ideas are at a different level in conception. Others have a prototype, others have a patent pending. But this was a business idea competition regarding the environment, and the three teams were the ones to convince our independent juries. We had 5 of them, one from EY Cyprus, one from Wargaming, one from the Cyprus Business Angels Network, and 2 people that were part of the climate kick in different stages. One German expert who came from Berlin, and another one who was also the coach who came from the Netherlands.
So it was a very successful event. Now, Chrysalis Leap has done, as I said at the beginning, many other start-up projects. What else is in the pipeline for people who missed this one?
Well, this was our first year that we had this formal cooperation with Climate Kick, and we hope we can continue it. The reason they found us is that they came in our launching event last year, and seeing the quality of the work we were doing, literally only with a sponsorship from EY, they managed to take one of our teams into their accelerator, and they were so impressed with them, which is actually quite good. It was a team called Aqualigence that came out of the University of Cyprus, and they were so impressed with what Cyprus and potentially Greece have to offer that they gave us this competition this year. And we hope we will excel in Valencia as well this year, so we can formalize and keep this cooperation going. I must say at this stage that out of all the countries that will be participating in this competition, all the countries but Greece and Cyprus are Climate Kick partners. We were brought in sort of the last minute of the preparation because they found something that they liked, and we hope we can continue that and bring more opportunities to Cleantech and generally scientific startups from Cyprus.
We hope so too. From Chrysalis Leap, that is Stelios Yadros.
In collaboration with the Cyprus Mail, this is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
The biggest achievement of Crime Stoppers has been the ability of the public to be able to give information about crime anonymously.
There's no way I could have kept prostituting without the drugs. There's no way I could have had my body used like a public toilet, because that's actually what prostitution is.
And then the 4th series I started 3 days after I'd won the Oscar, so the whole of the Monarch of the Glen experience was all interplatted with the Gosford Park Oscar experience.
I was working with Ronnie James Dio, and David was going to reform Whitesnake in 2003.
Cyprus was chosen because Cyprus is a stable, peaceful and secure place.
We have to really look closely. What are we doing with children? What are we doing with adolescents? And what are we doing with adults that can help them move into a more literate situation?
The ones that I'm proudest of are the ones that were true discoveries, where we found something we didn't know existed.
There was a fascinating concert this week at the Shoe Factory in Old Nicosia. The Kathrin Pechlof trio were playing jazz, but jazz with a little bit of a difference. Kathrin's with us on the programme. She's actually a harpist. Kathrin, you trained, I think, as a classical harpist. So where did the jazz come in?
When I was in my early 20s, I was friends with some jazz musicians, and so I got to know the music, and they took me with them to their concerts, and then slowly I got more and more involved.
And you did a course, I think, in jazz composition as well?
Later on, so for the first, I just tried, and they asked me for some projects, and I did it beside my classical career. But then it became more and more and more, and I felt I need really to go more deep into it. And then I decided to do the jazz composition studies. I was 29 then. So
it's very unusual, is it not, for a harp to be included in a jazz trio, or in jazz at all for that matter?
Yeah, so in the 60s and in the 80s there were some harpists who did this, but very, very few, and it's not a traditional jazz instrument. A little bit strange.
So what do you think a harp brings to jazz music?
The harp has a very specific color, which no other instrument has. So I recognize that a lot of people are interested. They ask me for their projects, so that they are interested in this new sound and this color. And I think the contemporary jazz is so open, and there's so many possibilities in every direction. So for me, it doesn't feel uncommon. So it's my instrument, and then I developed the genre, and so it was natural for me to do it with the harp.
Now, you play with a double bassist and a saxophonist, I think, in your trio.
Yeah.
When you put the group together, why did you choose those two instruments to go with the harp?
It was not just the instrument, it was also the persons. So I like both of them very much as friends and as musicians in general, and they are very open-minded and very free, have tremendous skills on their instrument. So that was an experience. So first we tried, and then we immediately felt that's it. So, and then we worked for more than 3 years. And I mean, the combination of these instruments, it's interesting because it has so much space, and it's very open. We don't have drums, so you can hear everything, every detail.
It sounds very intimate.
Yeah, this is true. That's true, and that's what I like. These intimate conversation.
Well, it's a fascinating idea, and you've got a CD. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we recorded a CD. It's called Imaginarium, for a Munich-based jazz label, Pirouette. Yeah, it was 2 years ago, and we will record the next in November, so it will come out next year. There was a interesting process with this producer there, because what I did before was also I did everything by myself. Yeah, I chose the takes, I thought about the cover and everything, and now we have a fourth person with another view and who did some decisions, and that was it was an interesting process, and I liked it. It's part of composed like contemporary music. Every note has to be on a certain place, and then we have parts are more free, and I try to find a synthesis of both, and I hope that is the essence of the music.
Do you have a website?
Yeah, it's katrinpechlof.de.
Okay, Kathrin Pechlof, and that's KATHRIN Pechlof. The Kathrin Pechlof Trio have been performing here in Nicosia. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Listen online to the Cyprus News Digest on YouTube or at cyprusmail.libsyn.com. The latest program is uploaded every Friday, and if you missed one, you can catch up there.
We see more and more electric and hybrid cars on the roads in Cyprus. They're particularly popular, of course, in town. They're not only better for the environment, but, of course, they're part of a European programme to cut emissions. Now, with me on the programme today is our Communications Minister, also responsible, of course, for the transport sector, Marios Dimitriadis. Marios, we don't have the infrastructure in Cyprus yet, do we, for particularly electric car recharging, for example. In so many European countries, people are encouraged to buy electric cars because they can charge them for free in municipal car parks. They're cutting their own costs, but the whole project is benefiting everybody because of the cleaner environment.
It is true that we're lacking behind measures to promote the electric car. We do have a target from the European Union that 10% of the energy produced with alternative means should be utilized in the transport sector by 2020. Now, we have included some programs for European funding for the next period, 2014 to 2020. And these programs, they have more to do with the creation of infrastructure for the use of the electric car. Now, I have actually asked from the department, from the relevant department of the ministry, which is the Department of the Electromechanical Services, which is responsible for the promotion of the electric car, to send me specific proposals to take to the Council of Ministers that would basically promote the use of electric cars and in a way utilize the money that we have in the programs. The other thing we have done, when we prepared the 3-year budget of the ministry, we have included those programs in our budget. So we have programmed some money to be spent on this sector. The thing is that to decide exactly what we're going to do with this money. Okay? And I think what you said before is quite important. We have to create the infrastructure for people to be able to charge this kind of cars. And also we have to think about giving some incentives to people having electric cars, even including hybrid cars.
Well, that's another point I was going to make, and that was that the sale of hybrids here, although it is picking up, is still fairly low, I think, compared to many other European countries. And those countries, again, supported it with incentives. We've always shied away from doing that, and I have no idea why.
Well, beforehand, we used to have a program giving a small subsidy for anybody buying a hybrid car, which now is not given. But having said that, the new system we have for the taxation, which is based on emissions, in a way promotes hybrid cars, because hybrid cars, they have very low emissions. That means that anybody buying this kind of cars, they don't pay any taxes, or they pay a very, very low amount of taxes. So this is for the transport license. So in a way, we are promoting the use of hybrid cars. Now, what is left to do is basically to give some additional incentives, like the ones you mentioned before, for example, like free parking in parkings that belong to the government, of course, or even maybe giving some sort of subsidy. This could be part of the programs that I mentioned before for promoting the use of electric cars in general. Also, a lot of the new models of hybrid cars, they also have a plug-in facility so that you can charge them. So the creation of the infrastructure for these purposes is quite important as well.
Do we have any idea how much this infrastructure would cost? I mean, since the scale here in Cyprus is much smaller, presumably you'll get away with many fewer charging points, and the important thing, I guess, is where you put them.
We have included a certain program for the promotion of electric cars, which is more than €1 million. Now, how much this is going to cost exactly, I don't know, to be honest. It's not going to cost a lot of money, but I don't have an exact figure at the moment.
And has the ministry got any idea or done any research into the potential for switching drivers to electric vehicles. And then, of course, there's public transport, because if we could get that to be environmentally friendly and convenient to use, then we'd get people out of their cars altogether.
Public transport is a problem in Cyprus in general, because it definitely has a lot of room for improvement. Now, there have been some thoughts in the past about using electric buses, for example, small electric buses to move people around. However, the cost is a lot to utilize this kind of technology at the moment. I think that, number one, we have to improve the public transport in general. And number two, we have to move into converting the ideas we have at the moment to something more specific. And to be honest, the relevant department, they sent me about a month ago a list of recommendations of things we could do to promote the electric car. Of course, all these recommendations, they have the element of cost, because without spending money, you cannot incentivize people. So what I have asked them to do is to go back on the drawing board and link all these incentives with the money we have already included in the budget. Because it's not only to say some general ideas about how to promote the electric car, but I think what is more important is how to implement these ideas. And because the money we have for spending on this purpose is specific and is already included in the 3-year budget we have for the ministry, I have asked them to link that amount with the specific programs, so then I can get those ideas to the Council of Ministers and get them approved.
It does seem that the underlying motivation here in Cyprus will be how it affects people's pockets, rather than whether or not it's good for the environment.
Well, in the times we live, Rosie, we have to think about the state of the economy as well.
What I was actually getting at was the fact that, obviously, in the current economic situation, people want to save as much money as possible, but it does seem that maybe we need to target people's view of the environment. A recent poll said a huge percentage of Cypriots thought the environment was very important, but they say that in a poll, and yet they don't seem to understand the linkage, for example, of CO2 emissions and indeed all the other emissions from car tailpipes that would be gone if they were driving electric cars. Do you see what I mean? I mean, can we in any way motivate people by showing them how much cleaner the air their kids would breathe would be?
That could be a good idea to do some promotion on this sector. Just something to mention on the electric car. I had a chat with some people from the car industry. Now, the use of electric car in general in Europe has not been as successful and widespread as originally thought. I think it might be a good idea to concentrate more on the use of hybrid cars, for example, that they seem to be more popular. Maybe we should target that specific category that it seems to be more accepted by people in general. But what you said before about also targeting people, how they think about the environment, and targeting maybe environmental people, it's a good idea. It's just a matter of how to do that. Maybe we can do it by an advertising campaign or things like this. But again, it comes down to money.
Everything comes down to money, but you seem quite confident that things are progressing and we will soon have a policy in place that will perhaps start to turn the tide.
Well, we have to have a policy because we have a specific target. We have specific programs that they have been included in the budget. It's just a matter of utilizing that money in the best possible way. And this is what I'm expecting from the EMS, from the electromechanical department, to send me.
Cyprus Minister of Communications, Marios Dimitriadis. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.